Well, that's an important information coming in. The NOTAM, which was applied at Leh, Shimla, Kangra and Kullu airport, has been removed. NOTAM is written notification issued to pilots, notice to airmen, and that's been withdrawn. So that's good news. In fact, let's pull out the Nifty's intraday chart, and you would see that there's a bit of a recovery which is happening from the low point. That's the Nifty. Also, let's see if there's any kind of reaction happening on, say, aviation stocks, especially Indigo. Okay, that's also seeing a bit of a recovery intraday. But we have Ashwini and Mitesh now joining us for the BTST calls. Ashwini, your thoughts first. You would want to keep your longs overnight. You reckon tomorrow we'll see a fair bit of short covering?
These are the signs, once de-escalation starts, you may have a 100-point gap up tomorrow morning. So as far as I am concerned, downside seems done. Now, I would like to wait for some short covering upside where we end up at 10,950. People who don't have positions should take positions and go home. That way, be more positive than negative. And individual stocks, ICICI Pru is a buy with a stop of 314, target of 321. Balkrishna Industries is a buy with a stop of 890, target of 920. And Bajaj Auto is a buy with a stop of 2300, target of 2900, target of 2955.
All right, that's 3 buy calls for Ashwini. Mitesh, what would you do in the last half an hour?
Yeah. I have a STBT and Wipro with a very tight stop at 377 for targets of 369, and ACC is a BTST. Keep a stop at 1418, look for targets of 1446.
Okay, in fact, talking about Balkrishna, what a move it's been, 20% higher since that result day on which it made that 52-week low. I remember I was having that conversation with Mr. Tulsian on Balkrishna and how beautifully that has played out. But Amrish, at 900, what's the call on the stock?
I think we've seen a decent correction in Balkrishna after that huge move in the last 2.5, 3 years. So I think it's being in that niche space and looking at the way the airports, the exports are working out, I think at these levels one should look at buying it.
Okay, all right, Amrish, we'll leave it on that note. Thank you very much for being with us on the show today. Let's move on and get to talking technicals. Jay Bala of Cash the Chaos is with us. Jay, the events, the noise, the turbulence, all of that is only increasing. The market is still in a range, at least at the headline index level. Now, we're again approaching 10,900 when these fresh events hit us. How do you look at the indices at this point?
Yeah, I'll make this short. In 2011, I had put up a blog post on market trends and disasters. In that, I broadly covered terrorist attacks, earthquakes, tsunami, and everything. The short point is that these don't even have the power to alter the short-term trend. Unless we are looking at a nuclear war, nothing's going to happen, and the existing trend is going to persist. And the short-term trend is volatile and continues to be volatile, but the medium-term trend is bullish. And I'm looking at record highs for the markets, and we are at a vastly different global setup. If you recall from our conversations in August and September, I had said that the Chinese market is heading for 4,500 to 5,100. That setup has already started playing out. And if you've spoken to many market participants in December, they would have said the U.S. markets are in a growth fear, a recession, and even some even called it a bear market. And if you look at the U.S. markets and the Western markets now, they are roaring and ripping ahead. So given that background, the Nifty is also likely to take cues from it in the medium term. But in the extreme short term, there is a pullback that's due for the global setup. And along with that pullback, you'll see some pullback come through for Brent. So that might actually cushion the fall and for the Indian markets. And then we could actually start moving up in sync for the next leg of the movement for the global market, where in synchronous US markets and the Indian markets will clock record highs.
Okay, well, the market will clock record high. Jay, hi, good afternoon. Your thoughts on a stock like Maruti, if you looked at the chart? Clearly showing signs of bottoming out.
Yeah, in our last conversation, Anuj, and I had even pointed out, some of the auto stocks are doing pretty well. I had even picked up Hero Honda and said there are early signs that there are some, green shoots for the auto sector. But coming to Maruti in specific, I would have preferred one more retest of the lows it saw recently, and that would have stabilized and put the stock in two legs rather than standing on one leg. I would rather see it go closer to 6,500, retest those lows, and then go on for the next step. But the short point is that there is some stability coming in Maruti too.
Okay, the market's again in recovery mode. We're just 16 points lower on the Nifty, at least as of now. Movers and shakers include HCL Tech, that is trying quite hard to get to the highs of the day again. There is continued buying on TCS. It's been a good week for TCS actually. Consistent buying, and that is a trend even today. That's HCL Tech for you. TCS 1% higher, L&T, ICICI Bank, some of these other heavyweights also trying to recover from the lows of the day, and therefore taking things along. Jay, what is the call on a stock like TCS actually? In all this uncertainty, if someone doesn't have it in their portfolio, can they still go out and buy at these levels?
Yeah, I think the baton is going to get passed from the other IT stocks to TCS, but you got to be a bit careful. TCS should not have dropped to below 1932, but it did. But that is an alternate bullish setup there, and I would think that's a even more bullish setup. And I've had a price objective of 17,500 for the CNX IT index, and it's already come somewhere close to the record highs already. But so that's not broken. I would think the next leg would be led by TCS. And, I think if you take a balanced risk at current levels, I think it presents a good opportunity for 2,300 to maybe even 2,700. Okay,
but any thoughts on Kotak Mahindra Bank? That's sort of again started to underperform after that that block deal.
Yeah, Kotak, it's going to hold the October lows, but the bounce from the October lows is not that impressive. It's actually a very choppy overlapping move. So that's not the kind of move you would like to see when the markets are trending. So I would say, that's not the best setup there. You rather look at something like an ICICI or an Axis. And if you want to pick something that's beaten down, look at S Bank. If S Bank takes out 240, you might see a surprise move of about 90 rupees past 240.
Okay, Jay, a couple of stock picks. I'm looking at the ones that you have sort of put out for us. This is interesting. So, Motherson Sumi, is the bottom finally in place?
Yeah, fair question, Surabhi. It's been beaten down a lot. If you look at the move from the stock, it went from 5 rupees to record highs. So basically, that gives you the context. It was basically correcting the long-term bull run, and the low of 127 that we saw is actually just slightly past its 50% Fibonacci retracement of the move from 5 rupees to the record highs. So, and if you look at the price action at the low, there is a bullish positive divergence on the stock, and it's clocking a bullish reversal too. So if not, it's going to restart at least a sizable correction to the fall from the record highs to 127. So I would think that it'll at least achieve 190, if not record highs. So if it gets past 190 in a quicker fashion, hold on to some positions for record highs.
Okay, interesting pick that you have in the mid-cap ID, Tata Elxsi, because that's been the underperformer. And I thought perhaps you would have pick say something like an NIT Tech or Hexaware, but why Tata Elxsi?
Yeah, I like catching stocks that are just coming off the correction. And Tata Elxsi, if you look at it from the price movements from October to January, it was sort of moving in a triangle. So whenever you see a triangle, it's almost always a penultimate leg of the move. So given that the fact that it was a triangle of those couple of months of movement, and then it came down out of the triangle in the first fashion. When a first move is finished, it's actually the end of a trend. So, and if the low at 8th for Tata Elxsi, candlesticks patterns show that it's put in a hammer with a positive divergence. So there is a good possibility that it will actually bounce back to at least its previous resistance somewhere about 1,088 to 1,076. So that's the price objective there. I'm placing a stop below that low of 830.
Okay. All right, Jay. Thank you for joining us on the show today. Appreciate your time.